What's up, YouTube? This is Daniel with Low Code Operational Intelligence, and this is the first episode of my SQL tutorial series where we're going to be helping anyone, whether they're new or getting curious with SQL, get rolling with some real manufacturing system-based issues, problems. Super excited to be here, and I think this is a really important skill that might be a lot easier to learn with a more practical approach based on some real business systems that I have a lot of experience with. So I'm going to be teaching both SQL as well as some real world business intelligence problems that you will often face when working with SQL. So quick overview. This series is all about learning SQL from scratch based on real simulated business data. It's going to be revolving around a manufacturing system process. So it's called the Chocolate Factory, which I'll get into in a little bit. But each episode is going to go through a series of practice problems where if you're interested in what I'd recommend, you're going to be pausing the video, attempting to solve problems using the skills that we're learning. And if you figure it out, that's great. If you get stuck, then you would just proceed with the video, and I'm going to walk through every problem as we go through it. The reason I'm making this and the reason I think you should continue with this tutorial is because SQL is a universal language for getting and manipulating data. It's been around for 30 or 40 years. It's not going anywhere. It's super, super important for anybody who wants to move beyond just Microsoft Excel and start using reproducible code to produce live dashboards or even just create queries that they're able to share easily and make quick changes to get live data out of a data warehouse and organize it in the specific way that's needed for your problems. Again, just emphasizing, SQL is a universal standard. There's different forms of SQL, but what we'll be going over in this video is going to be almost the exact same for different types of SQL, different types of data warehouses. Once you learn SQL, it is very easy to translate your experience with one type of SQL to another. This series is going to revolve around what I call the Chocolate Factory dataset. So I have crunched some numbers and randomly generated a pretty sizable dataset, a few months of simulated manufacturing activity. And the data from those systems reveals itself in these simplified ERP and MES tables. If you don't know what these systems are, that's totally okay. We're going to go through what the actual tables are used for, the data structures, but if you are someone who's familiar with these, hopefully you see a lot of overlap between your experience with them and how they're going to be used in this tutorial. Real quick, what is SQL? It's a structured query language, sometimes called SQL. It doesn't matter. Nobody is too picky about the proper pronunciation. It's used everywhere. Even this website, to generate this page, they're probably using some SQL in the background to extract configuration data and then pass that data to the website so that I see exactly what I'm supposed to see. It's super robust, universal, and once you get the hang of the basic structures and most critically understanding the order of the query language, its possibilities become endless. You can stack SQL queries on top of each other, and it really becomes an additional way to communicate for people who work with data. A database, so real quick, the difference between a database and a data warehouse generally is that a database is related to one system, and a data warehouse is for storing data from two or more systems. So in this case, we are technically working with a data warehouse. Types of databases generally all do the same thing, especially when you're working with just SQL. But if you can imagine, a database is basically a server or a set of computers that sits somewhere, usually in the cloud, and when you give it a SQL request, it takes that syntax, figures out what data it needs to get for you, often in a very optimized way. So databases are specifically designed to do this as quickly as possible, and then gives you the data in the format that you are requesting. So It's typically like a 24/7 computer that's just living somewhere up there in the cloud. And if you ask, it gives. Super reliable piece of software. And again, it's used in almost everything. Anything on the internet is at some point being stored and getting information from a database. You might be wondering what this tool is. What are we looking at? So this is Hex. Not sponsored or partnered with them, but I found their web tool and I wanted to use it for this series for quite a few reasons. One, it's kind of a cool modern application. It's entirely in the browser, so nobody will need to download anything to get started. And it offers this like pretty cool notebook concept. So I'm able to put text, and then later on we'll be working mostly with SQL queries, Python, Markdown if you want to do that. And it also has charts available. So as you build a set of data that you are querying through SQL, sometimes it's nice to see what that might look like with charts. So super excited about Hex. It's a great tool to learn, even if you don't end up using Hex specifically. The concepts that Hex is working on are going to be really applicable towards the future of business intelligence. With that, I'm going to switch over to how to get set up and get connected to our Chocolate Factory database. And once we're connected, we'll be able to get rolling. Again, my goal here is to get you moving and learning SQL as fast and efficiently as possible. I've designed everything so that you can do it entirely in your browser. And step one is going to be just signing up for Hex and connecting to the database. So let's get over to the next video and we'll get started.